So with this, click the like button, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and let's carry on. Okay, so I have two ChatGPT windows opened intentionally. One I'm going to use to start building that GPT, and the other is one I'm going to use other GPTs to give me some inputs that will help me in building this GPT we're talking about. So let's get started. I think to be able to build GPTs and to access the store so far, you need to be on the paid plan. If you're not there, I think it doesn't harm you to watch and learn. Whenever you get that access or decide to invest in OpenAI's ChatGPT and those GPTs, at least you'll be aware and you'll have this maybe stored as one of your libraries on YouTube, so you can go back to it and watch it anytime you wish. Okay, so what we do is we click Explore GPTs here on the left, and then you'll see the GPTs store here. And you can scroll down, see by category, the different GPTs out there, what's trending, what's not. What is being said today, if you're trending already, you're going to make money at some point if they roll out what they talk about in terms of profit sharing. But on the top left, you're going to find My GPTs. Click on that and you will get a list of your GPTs. And this is what you'll find on my website, all the links for these GPTs. So let's start by creating a new GPT. Now we want to configure it, and there's two ways to configure it, either from the Configure tab here or the Create tab. Now, the way to understand this interface when you're building a GPT, the panel on the left here is where you customize, you create, you build your GPT, and the left part here is where you preview or test your GPT. And it's essential as you build it to really keep checking how it's performing or behaving, and if it's something you're expecting, so you can pivot or modify things. Now, the easiest way to do this is actually go to Create and have a conversation like you do with prompting the normal ChatGPT, and it will do this work for you, limited to the beginner stuff of the equation. So if you want to take it a notch up, and this is what we're going to do, you will have to go into knowledge bases, you will have to go into actions. But to make things easier for us, at least for the foundation, we're gonna build the GPT in the Create section, and then we'll come to the Configure to fine-tune it, fix it, add actions, and deploy it. So with this, let's hit Create. To create a GPT, the prompt is very essential. Basically, how do you describe the functionality that this GPT is expected to perform going forward? This step is very important, and although you can keep talking to the Create section here, to the GPT itself, to recalibrate itself, it is better to start from the get-go with a solid prompt. Now for this, I'm going to use a GPT I created. It's called Prompt Engine, which basically helps me create really good prompts. So I will go to that. So if I head to the other window, and then I go for my prompt engine, and you can see this is the GPT I created, and I will write my message and get a prompt out of this. So this is what I wrote. Let me just move myself up a little bit so you can see. Okay, I want to send a prompt to a custom GPT model that will become an agent that help run a precious metal trading business in getting users live metal prices, preparing RFQs, which is request for quotation, to get prices from vendor, develop contracts, and send invoices. I will add actions to the GPT to complement its functionality, such as an API for metal prices, Zapier Actions to create documents and send emails, and I will supply it with multiple documents that serve as knowledge bases that give the GPT best practices about sending RFQs, designing and writing them, and the same for contracts to acquire metals, and finally on how to prepare invoices for such metals when sold to customers. Help me write the instructions to my GPT with the comprehensive prompt that will get best results. So now I'm getting the prompt from the prompt engine. I will not read the whole thing, but you can see it basically took my instructions, elaborated on them, made them in a very structured and logical sequence, which I believe will help us create a better performing GPT in the long run. So what I will do here, just making sure it's complete. So I'll take the whole thing, copy it, and we'll go back to our window to create the GPT, and I'll paste it here, and we'll see what happens now. So you can see it's saying updating the GPT. So this is the simplest way of creating a GPT. Now the functionalities are getting built into the configuration in the back end through a prompt, a direct prompt. And this is no rocket science, anyone can do it. So now as we crank up the complexity with actions and APIs, we get into the level where not everyone can do this, which would make this a little bit more unique. So now it's done, and it's suggesting a name for the GPT. It's calling it Precious Metals Assistant. So I'll say yes. So it's a good name. I'll pick up that name, and probably now it will ask for it's already creating a profile picture, and the profile picture is created. It's a nice one. I would change it maybe if I'm serious about this one, but it's good for now. Now, if you go to the configuration tab, you will see that already the GPT itself filled all the configuration areas in the GPT. So it has a name now, a description, and instructions to how to operate. And then you can see here, it already even filled in the conversation starters. Now there is no knowledge still, and there's no action. So probably if I ask it, it will go search the internet, get me something random, and plug it in. I want to make it more accurate based on real life data. And this is where the API comes into picture. Each GPT has this section, which is where many things happen. So you have the knowledge. This is where you upload the documents that you have. And then you have the capabilities. So do you want it to do web browsing? Basically go to the internet and look for information. Do you want it to deal with images through DALL-E, or do code interpreter, which is basically analyzing data and creating code? And honestly, I don't want any of them. So I don't want it to go to the internet, because that probably will confuse the GPT from experience. And I don't want images. And I only want it to grab data from the API and then generate actions based on my request and purely the knowledge base that I'm gonna supply. Now, for the knowledge base, I already did the work, went to the internet, got all these documents. You can do your own. I didn't give it lots of focus. When you create something, make sure that you get relevant, clean documentation that you go through, and you make sure it contains relevant information that will help your GPT perform, or basically create it yourself. But for the example, I got a big number of seemingly high quality documentation, not easy to get. Actually, it took me some time to get to these links and documents, but I'm gonna now load it before we start the API, because again, one of the easy steps, and then we'll go to the API just after that. Okay, so now as you can see, I loaded all these documents, and it's very simple. Just by clicking upload files, you open your file finder, and then you select the files of your choice. It's very easy, very intuitive. I do not know, I never tested how much data it can take, but till now I faced no issues whatsoever with big numbers of documents that I loaded for the knowledge base. So by mistake here, it seems I clicked code interpreter. Let's remove it. Okay, so now we have put the knowledge base, and the next step is getting to the API, creating the action. And to do that, simply, still we're on the configuration or configure page. We scroll down just below capabilities, and then you'll see actions and create new actions, and we click on that. And this is what opens up. So add action, you'll see authentication, none here. And then you'll see something called schema. Okay, and then a privacy policy. So a privacy policy is something I think at some point to be shared with the users, or maybe made readily available when they use these GPTs. Here is where the magic happens. Rather than using actions, AI actions by Zapier, or getting API calls to happen through the GPT, it happens here. Now, I am not a coder like you, but what I understand so far, API is basically a link to a function happening somewhere at the back end, and usually it's paid, sometimes it's free, where you get a link. If you provide that link with certain parameters of information as a request, usually it's a get or push, or there's specific ways to do that, you will get a certain response based on your input. Now, a schema is basically, again, code that explains to a program where you're going to use that API, that link, that function, of how to deal with it. So basically the schema is, I think the easiest way to put it from my understanding, tell me in the comment section if I'm wrong, it's basically an interface or a translation or an explanation to the software of choice you're using to pull in that API of how to communicate with that API. Let's call it the protocol of communication with the API. It's lots of code, by the way, when you see it. And I don't have a single idea how to create it. But I have again created a GPT that basically I dumped lots of documents that talk about schemas, AI Actions by Zapier, documentations from so many of these tools that leverage APIs. And now I'm asking it to build the schema for me. So the next step, we're going to go to that GPT, open a session, and start creating the schema for the API of choice, which I will show you. And please don't worry and don't think about all this information. I will have a link to my exclusive area on my website where you just need to log in, and then you'll get all of these things for free and other things that I've created in the past. So I'll have a link for all these knowledge-based documentation. If you want to test it, replicate it yourself, play with it. I'll have a link to the API that I will use. And I'll have a link pretty much to anything we will need to recreate what I'm doing today. So just try to watch on and get the flow of things and get how I'm doing it rather what I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm back to my normal ChatGPT, and you can see there's a GPT called GPT Builder. And this is the one I trained to help me in doing these things. So I'll just click it. And you can see it says your guide to creating, scaling, and selling GPTs. So there's a site I found called Rapid API. Again, I'm not a coder. Maybe there's hundreds of these online. And if you know a better one, a better alternative, maybe please send me. Now, there's one other link. I don't want to confuse things. It's called Postman. It's a great way to test those APIs. It's very easy, very intuitive. And it just takes you a little while to get used to headers, parameters, all these elements within APIs, and then you'll start finding yourself dealing with them at more ease as you practice. So when you go to the Rapid API website, obviously you're going to have to create an account. You can do that with Google, log in, and then you can search a huge database of APIs. So I found this one. It's called Live Metal Prices. And this is what I want for my GPT. I want to get a live price. Now, what's the price of gold today, now at this moment? And I started with this page because some of them are paid, some of them are not. So this one, I can use it for free as long as I use it not more than 50 times a month. I think just to do a certain kind of business, you can start with 50 if you're serious about creating a GPT for such a business. As you ramp up, you can pay more. And honestly, like from some of the APIs I've seen, this is cheap. And yeah, something just to keep note whenever you want to use an API. Some of them are free, some of them come with a cost. So the first thing whenever to go to an API is the documentation. You want to understand how to use that. Some of it is confusing. With time, I'm able to read it, and it's funny because you learn, although you leave this heavy lifting to ChatGPT, but going into the issues, troubleshooting, one time after another, you find yourself able to look at API documentation and use it. So the first thing we're going to use is you click here on the endpoints. Now, I already subscribed to this before I started recording. Now, if you didn't do that, when you come to this page, you will find the button here that says subscribe to use this API. And basically, once you click it, it will take you to the pricing page again, and then you'll have to hit subscribe on the free option and the basic option, and then you're good to go. And when you do that, you will get an API key basically. That key is basically, it's a password, you can call it a password, that will allow you as an individual to use this API service. Okay, so let's go back. So I already clicked the link for the documentation. So you can see it here, documentation for live metal prices. And this is the page. And it's basically a page that explains everything about how this API works. So let me tell you what I simply do every time. So I copy the whole thing. I go to my GPT builder, paste it. So I'm done now. I took all the documentation. But then I come back here and I copy a code sample of a request. Basically, this is how the request goes. It might give the GPT builder a good idea of how such requests are made, or what are the important headers or information that must be there. I click copy, and then again, I go back to my GPT builder, and then I can write, and then I write an example of a request with my API key. Now, if I go back here, this is a Node.js type of language or something. I even don't know that, but it works. So let me again mention that to the GPT just in case. And now, one more thing I also found to be helpful when building the schema. When you go back here to your GPT, you can ask for an example. So you see a weather, JSON, a pet store, YAML. So these are, I think, the different protocols to write code or to write these schemas. And then there's a blank template. So I'll just copy the template and I'll go back again to my GPT builder. So I just paste the template here for the GPT. Now I go back to the top, and then I will write a prompt basically telling the GPT, I have a GPT I'm building, I have the API documentation, I have a sample of how the request is made, and I have a sample and an example of the schema. Take this information and recreate a schema for me that will communicate basically through the GPT with this API and create those actions. So I have submitted everything, and now it's giving me the response. Hopefully it will develop a schema for me that I can take back to the GPT and basically copy it and paste it there, and then we'll take it to the next step. So now it built it. Let me copy the code, go back to the GPT here. Again, I'll just select all, V, so I paste it. So now, as you can see, I'm getting an error here, and simply I'll take it. It seems it didn't reflect the GET request. So I'll just go back to the GPT builder and say, now a developer probably would have fixed it in a couple of clicks. We do more work, but we figure it out eventually. So basically I told it I got below error, explain why, and resubmit full schema addressing it. It is always good and advisable that you ask for the reasons, and this is how you learn. One time after another, you'll find yourself more able to understand these things through the explanation of ChatGPT or AI in general. So the error you encountered indicates that the operation ID is missing for each endpoint in the Open API schema. This operation ID is a unique string used to identify an operation. It must be unique among all operations described in the API. And okay, to fix this issue, I will add an operation ID to each endpoint in the schema. Here's the revised Open API schema. So it resubmitted the whole thing. Still it's writing, so let's wait. Once it's done, I will just copy it and paste it. Okay, so I got the revised schema. Now I have copied it again, and let's try this one. Command all, delete, no errors. Good, and I can see the actions, get latest price, and then price for a symbol, specific symbol, and currency. Now, see, whenever you see these things, basically it's telling you it's dealing with specific symbols and currencies. A good practice is go again, check in the documentation. Okay, so you can see here, supported symbols. Let's copy that. Yeah, so here you can see all the symbols and the currencies this API covers. So that's good that came to our attention. So let me copy it, and we'll come back here. For now, let me save it, make it only for me for this stage. I'll confirm because I don't want to lose the schema. But you know what? Actually, it's better to go to my Google Drive, create a Google Doc. In this Google Doc, I will just paste everything, all the symbols I got from the website. Then it's automatically saved. Download the whole thing. I'll do it as a Word document. So you can see it's already downloaded. Close, no need for this anymore. Go back to my GPT, to the configure tab, load that document in the knowledge base. So later I will prompt it to use only the symbols in this document. So good. So now you can see here you have the live metal prices rapidapi.com action. It will not work so far because we need to authenticate it. Now if we go back to the live one, you can see it gave me an API key. So I will take it. And one thing from experience, this is how things you learn from dealing with ChatGPT. You can see here the header for this API key, or the way it is described as a variable, it's different from just API key. So you need to do a custom one, and it's very intuitive, very easy to do it on ChatGPT. So what you do here is you need an authentication, and the authentication is how can this API connect you as a subscriber for the API and understand how much you're using and identify you. So this is your identifier and your access. It's like your password. So I'll go here and you have basically none, API key, and OAuth. This is an authentication that is used by Google and other things. Gets a little bit more complex, but still can be done here. So I go to the API key, paste my key, and then I put custom here. And you can see automatically it says X API key. And then I go back to my API and you can just copy the name it is mentioning. Yeah, see X rapid API key, and then you click save. It should be authenticated now. The nice thing also in GPTs is that you can test. So let me run a test on get the latest prices. So allow, voila, magic. I am honestly shocked that I already had faced one issue to get this working, but lucky me, lucky you. One issue only, now I have it running and I have it working. So now we have a running API key for this GPT. So whenever I request it to give me prices for metals, I'm getting it. Now, let me just, to stay on the safe side, update it again. And we're gonna add one more action now, which is the Zapier AI Actions. It's very easy, simpler than this, and very interesting, especially if you know to deal with Zapier as a tool. And the problem here, it does require you to have a Zapier account. Okay, so let's head back, click back here. Good. I don't know why it took me all the way out. I missed something maybe. Still, I can simply go back here and edit. We go to configure, we have the database, and you can see these actions, and we create a new action. Now, this is much easier. So I will also include these links. So here, if we go to Zapier AI Actions, and then there's another one which is getting started with Zapier AI Actions. I'll put the links for those, and by the way, I included the same links in the older video, so you can get in both descriptions. So this is basically a documentation to use these actions. You have here the actual actions that you can build, and then here you have the documentation to create those actions, and this is 10 times more easier. So you have a link here, you copy, you go back to your GPT, the same place where we're at, but there's a button here says import from URL. You just paste that link or that URL that they put in the documentation, say import, and you have your schema ready. And this schema basically tells the GPT how to interact with Zapier as a tool. One more thing we need to do is no need to authenticate this, by the way, because at the first attempt, it will prompt you to do an authentication with Zapier. And if you have an account, that will happen automatically. Now, if you go back to the documentation and you scroll down, basically here, they're giving you extra instruction to give your GPT to be able to interact with the Zapier actions. So we'll just simply copy them, and I'll explain them in a very easy manner as we go into it. You copy them. Again, go back to your GPT, and we'll have to, yeah, that's the right back button I should have clicked before. So you have already the standard one, or the initial instructions that were created from your prompt, right? So you simply click enter and enter, and then add the copied instructions. And these instructions are basically rules to explain the idea for the GPT on how to select which action from the ones I'll show you in a second, and how to trigger that action through the schema. Now, if you see, it's just text explaining how to interact with Zapier. And then at the end, you have two actions mentioned here with configuration links. And this is like a specific setup for the GPT to understand. So there's an action, and then followed by the name of that action. Below it, there's something called configuration link, and then the link of that action. And here they're covering two actions. You can put as much as you want. Now, what we need to do is we need to delete name of the action, and we need to delete the link. The same goes for this link, and the name goes for this one. So we have action configuration link, action configuration link. We go to the actual Zapier AI Actions. Again, one more link I'm going to share. So here, simply you can add a new action, very intuitive. I will not do the whole thing here because already this video is long. I will show you how it looks within Zapier. If you use the tool, it will be no problem at all. So for example, I wanted two actions here. I want an action to send an email. So you click on it, and basically here you will find the action is send email, the account, and this is the advantage of dealing with Zapier. So Zapier will take care of the authentication for you. I'm pretty sure you can do this from the schema thing we've done with the API. You can still do it directly in the GPT to send emails. But here, all that headache of authentication, which gets complex a little bit, especially with Google, is done on your behalf. And this is a big but. If someone from Zapier is listening, I think you need to fix all the bugs and issues that keep happening in your actions with GPTs. So lots of errors happen when you deal with Zapier. At some point, I'm thinking if I want to push something that really is working as a GPT, and unless Zapier fixes the issues, I am better off actually going through the hard route and figuring out how to do the authentication of the Google email, for example, and Drive, and creating that schema similar to the API and doing it straight from the GPT, which I know is complex, can be done. I'm willing to do it, happy to do it, but I'd rather have it happen for me through Zapier as a tool I use nearly every day. Okay. So here you see the account already authenticated in the back end. To whom this email goes, have the AI guess the value. So basically from the conversation, it can guess the value. The subject, again, the AI will figure that out. The body will be figured out by the AI. And then you have other options like a blind carbon copy and all these kind of things that you need. And then there's the action name. So remember when we looked at the action, there's an action and a name and then the link. So this is the name. So we simply copy it, go back to our GPT. So the first action is send an email. The link is the actual link that you see here in the browser. So you copy that and then you go back to ChatGPT and insert the configuration. Now we'll go to the second one. And I'll take you, you can click done here. And this is creating a document. So if you want to create, let's say, an invoice, an RFQ, to send it through an email, you'd want to create a document in your Drive. And basically what you do here, I'm just showing you the action. The action is create a document from text. This is my account, a link to Zapier. So you have a name. It will be basically figured out by the AI. Content figured out by the AI as well. And then you select the folder where you want to drop these documents when you create them. Also, there are other options if you want to see it. But always in the hidden part, you'll find the action name. And you can change it, by the way. So again, I'll copy this one and I'll go back to my GPT, include it as a name, and then pick up the link, go back here, paste the link. Let me keep space just in case. And then I should have everything up and running now. Let me update, confirm stuff, give it a second. Yep, now I have a link. If I want to make it public, I can use, I have to do it here, but I can use the link. So let's test it out here in the preview before we release it to the world. And I will add it again to my website GPT dedicated area if you want to play with it as an end result. But with the link that will come with this video to my website, the user to the member only area that you can create an account and access everything there is free. You'll find the blueprint, basically the documents, the links for everything you need to build this on your own. Let me try to do this, and it might need configuration because remember I gave it the knowledge base. I didn't really articulate how to use that knowledge base. It will take time. I will not spend all that time, but I'll show you it is working now. I'm more interested to show you the actions rather than the knowledge base and the prompting because that's intuitive. Anyone can do it. I will ask it first, give me ounce of silver in, I don't know, in Japanese yen. I don't know if that's one of the currencies, but let's see. So here it's starting the action. It will always prompt you to allow, always allow, and it will be making those requests to the API. And I have a price. So I got a price. So let's say I want to create a contract to buy this from a supplier. I've told it basically create a contract for me to buy 10 kilograms of silver for a supplier who's XYZ located in New York. Make sure that the payment terms are favoring me basically, and consider their email, and I'm gonna hide the email, it's my personal email, and then create that contract and drop it in my drive. And remember, I'm not telling it Google Drive action, I'm just saying drop it in my drive as an assistant, and it should create that contract in a document and place that document in my drive, and we'll see how that goes. I expect it, because this is the first run of a Zapier action, to authenticate the connection between GPT or ChatGPT OpenAI and Zapier. So it's asking me to confirm, to take the action, confirm. So it created the contract, and it should have dropped it in my Google Drive, and it actually gave me the link. So let's click the link and see the contract. And this is the first time. The whole thing I'm doing live with you, well, recorded, but I didn't do it before. And it's disappointing. Okay, so it gave me just 3 lines and again mentioning the email, which is fine. And this is the process of developing those GPTs. I'll go back to create here. So I'm telling it again, I need you to use all documents in the knowledge base to develop responses for users, like creating a contract for buying metals. Please scan all the documents of knowledge base and confirm you understand it in detail. And this is basically training the AI module. So it takes time. Now, when big numbers of people start using this, it will become much better, because it will get that feedback loop. And if you get into the language models, and you'll get to read about, if I'm not mistaken, the reverse neural networks and forward neural networks. So it's like the cycle of the language model to learn how it acts and reacts to interactions with it. You are training it initially to throw it to the market to a basic level, where people, when they engage with it, they will actually get it to be better and better. So now it's searching my knowledge base and it's learning from the knowledge base. I didn't prompt it to do that before. Maybe that's the issue. Now I'll do that, and then I'll go back and ask it to create the contract again. Okay, so now it started responding to my request. And basically it's telling me that it went through the documents, started basically comprehending and understanding the content of each document. It listed the high-level areas of these documents. So I got my confirmation. Now let's do this again. So here you can still use the same features on ChatGPT. So I can edit the request, basically save and submit again. Let's see if it operates in a better way now. Okay, so it's taking a little bit more now, which is comforting. So it's saying I'm preparing the contract draft. So I'll say confirm. So it's now drafting the contract for me here, which is fine. And this is one of the issues I would love someone to take to Zapier. I think the actions can't handle lots of text. I think there's a limit there. Whenever there's lots of text, these actions fail. Okay, I'm getting a basic kind of contract here, which is fine. Now we confirm that it was able to create a document. Okay, let me try to ask it, try again to push for a document in my drive. So here I just said, try again to put this contract in a document in my drive. Hopefully I don't crash and burn in front of everyone on this video. While it's working, I do love Zapier. I think it's a superpower when it comes to these things and has lots of potential. And I don't think it's a coincidence that OpenAI is focusing on Zapier as one of their partners. But Zapier, for God's sakes, fix your issues. Let your actions be smooth and uninterrupted, like your actual zaps that you create on your platform. Okay, I'll hit confirm. Let's see if it works. An error. Zapier, please. So I'll try one last thing before I conclude. Now I gave it my personal email, so it should send that contract to me on my email. Let's hope this one works. So it's asking me to confirm, fingers crossed. I will do one more try. Probably you dropped off the video so far. I'll mention these issues so you can skip them if you want. One thing I found out from experience, oh, I have it open. I don't know if that is creating the error. Let me refresh. Sometimes just refreshing the actions does magic. Even close the windows. Let me say, try again. Fingers crossed. So now it's asking me to confirm. This one took time. I'm not expecting it to work. Actually, it failed one more time and it didn't, maybe after some errors, didn't correlate that it needs to put the contract in the body. Last time, I'll put it here. And I've hit my limit in ChatGPT 4. And by the way, I sent them a note to give me more limit. I've tried it before, it worked. So Zapier, lots of issues in your AI actions. But to prove it works, let me show you an email I got from another GPT. So this is a GPT that I created to get me from an API breaking news on any keyword I want. So for example, procurement, supply chain, AI. And I asked it to put it in a document, and it did. And then I asked it to send it to me through an email with the link for that document. And I got this, and it decided the topic or the subject of the email and the body, and it put the link as if it's going to a team of mine. Going back to where we began, we have created a somehow working GPT with at least a solid functionality of getting us prices of metals. You can do more of the send email, document, paste document from text through the direct authentication you can do in those GPTs. I would love it if Zapier picks up on this and fixes it, because there's a big advantage of using tools like Zapier and plugins like Zapier with GPT. It will save lots of time, especially for people like us in our niche. We are not coders, but I believe every one of us can do it. Now, will this make you a millionaire? Probably not. You can see it's already having lots of bugs and issues till today with the user interface, with the testing, with the actions, with all these kind of things. Does it have potential? It has lots and lots and lots of potential. Remember, at the end of the day, I'm not a coder. I'm a supply chain procurement business kind of person who spent 20 years in that world. Today, I'm able to build systems. I'm able to build tools with things like Zapier, and definitely with the GPTs and OpenAI model. So definitely there's potential there. What I invite you all to do is get started. It's a journey. Give me your feedback, give me your comments, give me ideas to work on. I'll be happy to try things for you. And I think as we go through this journey, at one moment or another, there will be a tipping point for many people, including us, the non-coders, where our know-how, our background, our experience, our even characters will bring something to bear in the market that is not there today, where basically there's a bottleneck of you having to go through developers and then explaining what you want to the developer and going through these cycles. I think things are going to change. I think at one moment, if you are part of this journey, you will be able to create sophisticated tools and systems on your own without a developer, or with minor insights or inputs from a professional developer. I hope you enjoyed this video, including its failures, and I will come to you soon with other interesting things around automation. Please do not hate me if you're some of the crowd of technology and you're getting things around business and supply chain and procurement. These worlds will collide. Corporate and AI, corporate and technology already collides, but AI is coming to merge with that world. I'm trying to feed both audiences, and I believe at one point you will both be one, hopefully. So do not unsubscribe because I'm putting something on supply chain, or if you're into supply chain, you see me putting something on technology, don't do that. Support the channel, subscribe, comment, like. These small interactions for such a really small, tiny baby channel, you can't imagine, it makes the whole difference for me, and it keeps me energized and going. And remember, check the links in the description. You will find a link to my members area on my website. Register. I would love to have the trust of your email to share content with you when I have something great to share, and you will get free content like the links for the knowledge bases, the Zapier documentation, the Zapier actions link, everything else you've seen on this video, the API itself, so you can replicate it, use it, play with it, enjoy it. And with that, thank you very much. Have a good day and happy innovating.